We have fun today learning how to make a multi-strand bracelet with wax knotted cording. Today I'll be using a really neat cord. It's called wax Brazilian cord and a mixture of check glass beads and a ceramic bead. And I thought I could show a couple different ways of creating a knotted necklace. Thank you so much for being here. If you were going to leave a comment, I can only read them when we are on artbeads.com. If you're joining us today on YouTube or Facebook, hi Lori, I won't be able to see your comments. Hi Jamie. So if you wanted to comment and have any questions or get a response, I'd really love to see you on artbeads.com. Also, we'll have shoppable links on the bottom of the screen. And if you're missing today's live, that's okay. Hopefully you'll be catching us later on replay. So thanks so much for being here. I'm going to pause my show for just a minute while I tilt my camera back and we'll get started. And now I have to find the right button to pause. It's always fun. Hold on one second. It likes to go slow-mo. Not sure why. Okay, so I have an assortment of beads out today that we'll be working with. I'm going to actually rotate it this way, as well as the cording. So I'm using a 0.7 millimeter cording because the hole size I have on the beads is a little bit larger to 1 millimeter. Now, if you're working with a smaller bead, you'll want to go down in cording to like 0.5 millimeter, or you can use a larger hole bead. So I saw this on the website and thought it was a really pretty red. And in addition to that, I found this ceramic bead, and I love the golem beads. They're really nice ceramic beads. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make a bracelet with this. So the artbeads.com website had some really fun mixture glass beads as well as colors. And I thought I'd join it together with this clasp. Because the flowers are really similar in detail. So I thought, oh, this would be great. And I'm using a Green Girl Studio bird nest. I thought that would be fun to mix with it, as well as an assortment of glass beads. So how I'm going to get started today is I'm going to start with a 10 millimeter jump ring, and it's a heavy gauge ring, as well as the cording. So I've pre-cut 3 strands at about 4 feet long. You might not need 4 feet, but again, I always like a little bit more than less, because if you don't have enough, you don't want to start all over again. And this cording is a really nice cording. It does have a light wax, but it's not too much where it doesn't get on your hands or anything. It's very easy to work with. And it's also really stable, which is nice. I'm kind of picky about my cording, and this is a really good quality and brand of cording. It's really nice to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all 3 strands together, and I'm going to tie it around one of my jump rings. And this is also going to be an end point for the clasp. So just in case, I like to leave a little extra of a tail in case I get to the end and I need to knot an extra jump ring, or I'm missing something, or I need to change the size for any reason. I like to just leave like a good 5-inch tail. Even if you don't need it, it's just nice to have it there just in case. And then I bring my 2 strands together like this, and I'm just going to do a single knot. The other thing you can do if you wanted to is you could add extra beads to the loose strands on the end if you wanted to add kind of a smaller bead for a little bit more of a decorative detail. And I'm just going to separate these. And you want to pull your strands tight and then bring your cord up to the base of your jump ring. And then if you have like one loose cord, just pull them all individually until you figure out which one it is. Thanks for being here, Wanda. Really appreciate it. Nice to see you, Charlene and Christy. I love these colors. I thought they would be so great for the summer. Just like orange, red, yellow. I try to kind of keep in this color scheme, and it's just really, I love this bead. I think it's such a pretty color of a light orange and yellow with a cream base. All right, so I have my knot started, and again, you can add beads to your tail if you want, but I'm going to kind of separate them a little bit in the middle here and start with my ceramic bead first. Now, there are different ways of doing this. You can have one large bead to start with and have 3 more beads next to it. You can have 2 beads and then start from the 2 beads to branch off into your multiple strands. I've done a couple different styles of bracelets where, let's say, if you want to stack extra ceramic beads next to it, or you can just have the one large bead and then branch out to your multi-strands. And I also do a knot in between each bead when I'm getting the bracelet started with the larger beads in the front. And depending on how large your hole is, then you would want to do a larger knot. But this one is going to sit right there, so it's going to be just fine. And so this is going to be my starting point. And then I saw this bead, and I just thought it'd be great if you wanted to mix bird beads with it, or have like a hi Sabrina, or have like a bird charm on there. And I thought, plus it's kind of summery and works with flowers if you wanted to have a garden motif. So I'm going to have the flower, the bird nest, and tie another knot. And then I'm going to branch off into the multiple strands. And when you tie a knot, you want to push it up against the previous bead and also pull all your strands tight. That way everything is nice and tight in its place and it doesn't like slide down or lose its space. And so these are going to hold their space nice and tight as you're wearing it. They won't like slide anywhere. They're going to stay on there really good. And the fun part is now you branch off into your strands. So there are different ways of doing this. You can just add your beads along the strand singularly, or you can knot in between each one. It depends on what your preference is and how much time you have. And so for the first strand, I wanted to do, actually, I want to have the outside more chunky. I'm going to start with the green. So I usually do chunkier beads on the outside and the skinnier beads on the inside. That way when they fall a certain way, the larger ones kind of take up the space on the outside. And so again, you can do this like if you, however you wanted to, you could just add the beads on the strand like this next to each other, like so, and then have it go around like this, or you can knot in between each one. For the green, I'm just going to go, actually, I'm going to break this up a little bit. I'm going to do a knot in between each one. And when I do a knot, I just do a regular knot. You know, I just have this circle. I bring the cording through the middle and I pull down, but I also hold it in place with my left hand. That way the knot forms right at the base next to the bead. And I bring it down nice and tight with my fingernails. That way the knot is right next to the bead and it's not over here, and it's going to hold the bead in place and kind of lock it down. And also you want to just make sure it's nice and tight. I'm using 4 feet of string just so I know I have enough. When you're knotting, you eat up a lot more string and it goes, it takes up more string, so I cut more just in case. Could I do macrame right now, or could you do macrame up next to the, I'm sure you could add the beads and then you could do macrame off the side. Absolutely. I don't know if there's a difference, honestly, between waxed and Irish. To me, the consistency feels the same. They both feel like they have the same amount of wax, and I'm sure it's probably has to do a difference of what's included. This does say it's good for macrame, by the way. It doesn't say like what is included fabric wise. Maybe that's the difference. I'm not sure if it's like a fabric or if it's a wax consistency that makes it different. But to me, the Irish and the Brazilian feel the same when you're working with them. The other reason why it's fun to use a thinner one is so if you have a bead that has a slightly smaller drill hole in the center, you don't have to fight with it so much to get it on your cord. So you want to double check what size bead you're using in relation to the cord that you'll be ordering. Like a 0.5 cord will fit in smaller beads a lot easier, but would be too thin for a larger size bead. So I'm going to mix this one up with a cream color one. And this check glass that I picked, it's brown on the outside and it has the cream on the inside. I thought it worked really, really well with the bead because it has the exact same color of brown and cream on the ceramic bead as it does in the glass. So they bring out the colors in the beads really well. So as I'm working, I'm just kind of mixing beads in together that bring out the ceramic bead detail. And there we go. So I'm going to build it kind of like this, and I'm going to have the yellow off by itself. So you could mix and match these any way you wanted, or you could just do one strand of the single beads, like all yellow, all green, and all red, or all cream, and leave one of them out, so you don't have to mix all the colors together. You could just do like all red, all yellow, all green, like whatever your preference is. I love golem beads. They're so fantastic. They're colorful. There's so many different types to choose from with images and different shapes or colors depending on what you want to work with. The other thing, if you're working with larger beads, is you want to kind of like pull down your knot area just a tiny bit to get these to lay flat. If you're working with too many jumbo size beads, they'll kind of run into each other a little bit. And when you're wearing it, you kind of want it to stay flat. So I just kind of work with it, kind of branching off out to the side, pulling my cord a little bit to get them to kind of lay flat. You know, or you can just do all skinny beads. But the, I could have done like thinner yellow beads. It just depends on how much of a look you want, if you want it to be chunky or if you want it to be, you know, a skinnier bracelet or not. But I saw these online and the colors matched the golem bead perfect. So I was like, I gotta do that. This project probably will take about an hour from start to finish, depending on how much you want to knot, if you want to go in between each bead, or if you just end up stranding them all together. Yeah, the color palettes he has on the ceramic beads too, and artbeads.com has a nice selection of ceramic beads to choose from, as well as coordinating beads. So you could take this idea and then just grab a different bead and mix and match and then create your own knotted necklace or bracelet. And again, whatever you make, if you make a bracelet, feel free to tag Art Beads. We also have an Art Beads group on Facebook. More than welcome to tag me on social media. I would love to see what you guys make. Hi, Kim. I'm so glad you're here today. And show us what you made. We love to see what projects are made with Art Beads. There we go. And again, so every time I do a knot, my hair is getting in there, I just pull it right up next to the bead, hold it down with my nails like this or my fingers, and pull the cording so it's nice and tight. It's important because as you're working, sometimes the knot will accidentally get down here and then you're going to have a hard time getting your bead over that knot to line up with the other beads in a row. And the other thing you want to do is make sure it's nice and tight, so if you're pulling on it, it doesn't pull out from the knot and then like fray a little bit. So I just, you know, line it up next to my bead, pull it tight, and that way the knot is nice and firm next to the bead and they all stay in a line. So I'm working. Now how you measure this bracelet is when you're going, you want to pause probably halfway through and double check your length. So that way it's not too long. It's easy to accidentally make this style of bracelet too long or too short. So as I'm working, I'll go, you know, 4 inches in or so and just double check with my ruler how long it is, because when you add this top portion along with your clasp, this could be, for example, almost your entire bracelet finished. So you just want to double check like how long you want it with everything on your ruler, including the jump rings. So for this one, I'm using a smaller 6mm jump ring to attach to the larger one. And that right there is, you know, almost 1.5 inches. So as you're going, you just want to double check your length. And the other part with the jump rings too is, again, you can keep this cording here to add beads. You can cut it off. You can add beads here. But when I come to the end of this bracelet, I'll be adding these fun glass orange flower beads to the end with some silver ball head pins to make little charms on the other end of the bracelet. So I'm going to have one strand that's just the red beads, and one strand that's the yellow. And I picked this yellow because it matches the center of the golem bead perfect. I thought that was neat. And it's going to be a fun bracelet. Summer is officially in 2 days. Use a pin inserted to the knot and drag the knot to the last bead. Oh, that's a good idea. If it helps, I mean, that's great. That's a great idea. I just bring it around, and again, I just kind of slide it down like this, and it goes right by the bead. It might take a little bit of practice if you haven't done it before. Here we go. Another thing too is I have a tutorial up if you wanted to do strings on the outside. So what that means is you take your cording on the outside, you have one strand in the middle and 2 strands on each side going around the bead and knotting it, and then one on the outside, one on the inside, and then doing that as well for your strands. So there's a couple different ways that you can knot a bracelet depending on what beads you're using and what style you're going for. And I thought these beads were a lot of fun because the colors are vibrant and colorful without being too strong of a color, and then they also match the golem bead. And there's other golem beads available with matching glass on the website. So again, if you wanted to use a different golem bead, you could find matching glass and use this technique to make a bracelet. Oh, sorry. I need to get up above the chat. There we go. So for this one, I think I'm going to do cream and green together. I love these cream check glass beads. I can't remember what they're called, but they're a really neat shape. Almost like a planet or something. Like Saturn. Anyways. Oh, thank you, Charlene. They're really nice beads, and this is not an expensive project either. And the nice thing is whatever you have left over, you can use it for another project. And this is a large amount of cording, which is fantastic at 15 yards. You can use this for a lot of projects. So, you know, and the color also kind of reminds me of Christmas. So you could also use the cording for a Christmas bracelet if you had some left over at Christmas time. I think for this strand, I'm just going to do the green and the cream and just do every other bead cream and green. Okay, where I'm at. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of where I'm at so far. And then sometimes because the cording is tight in between the beads, I just take it and just kind of pull it down a little bit to help straighten it out so they don't stack up on top of each other too much. Because as you're pulling the cording tight, it'll kind of want to bunch up a little bit. Just kind of pull it down. And I'm going to add a few more beads. And then as we get closer to the end, I'll show you how I tie everything off. Oh, I learned something new. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the information on the cording. I did not know that. It's slightly more than Brazil. Oh, that's good to know. So you can use Brazilian cord for macrame and larger beads too. I need to try macrame. I have not done that. I really want to try it. There's a couple of things floating out there I'd really love to experiment with. I haven't tried it yet. It looks like fun. And I find once you start working with cording, it can be addicting almost. Like you can really find lots of projects to make and you'll want to make multiple projects with cording. It's a lot of fun to work with. And again, just pull down. It's close to lunchtime where I'm at, and I'm not like a big McDonald's fan, but I'm looking at the red and yellow. I'm thinking, oh, it reminds me of McDonald's. Oh, it's close to lunch. Assuming you guys have had lunch where you're at, what did you guys eat for lunch? Oh yeah, Eslon and Ceylon cord is great. I've made some malas with that. I love the texture of Eslon cord. It's like a really soft cording. I have not used 11 seed beads with it though. I am so glad that you asked about Brazilian cording and Irish cording. That's good to know. I am so excited. We're starting to have a beautiful sunny day outside. It's been kind of chilly the last few days and the sun's coming out, so that is nice. We're supposed to have a really nice warm weekend. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more beads on this strand and then just measure to find out where I am. Again, you kind of want to pause and measure when you could be about halfway done to just double check the length of everything to make sure your bracelet isn't too short or too long. And then as well, you want your bead lengths to be the same in the bracelet. And sometimes beads aren't going to be the exact same size or length or whatever as you're working. So you just want to try your best to get them to line up the same. Looks like these ones are pretty good though. Yeah, this cording does not fray at the end. And I'm pulling it through and it's doing really, really well. Like I'm very impressed by this cording. It's called Not It. And I really like this brand. I have not used this yet. I really like it. Okay. So I'm going to guess what's happening. So we have 6 inches. So I'm going to go, how do we end this? That's going to be about a 1/2 inch plus this. So this is usually how I kind of size my bracelets. So if we have a few more beads, I'm going to need about a 1/2 inch for the toggle clasp. So if you're looking for a 7-inch bracelet, again, I just kind of have everything kind of lined up. So I'm guessing, you know, I'm going to end about here. So I'm going to add a few more beads and then pause for a 7-inch bracelet. So as you're going, it sometimes doesn't look like you have that many beads on there. And I'll over add beads. And then the other trick I do sometimes is I'll put out my wrist and kind of gauge where am I at, how much room do I have left, and how comfortable it is, because a thicker bracelet will take a little bit more in length. If you make it too short and it's a thicker bracelet with chunkier beads, you'll need to add a 1/2 inch at the end of extra space. That way it fits comfortably. And one more. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to add 2 more beads and stop. You'll also need a little bit of room when you're tying your knot on the last jump ring to hold everything. So everything takes, you know, a little bit of space. When I'm done, I just end it with a knot That way the beads don't come off, and that one is finished. All right. And sometimes the beads don't want to go on the cording. They're like, nope, I'm good. I really like this cording though, because even when you pinch the ends together, it doesn't fray and it doesn't come unbound. Some cordings will open up on the end and come loose, and then you have to trim the cording to keep it going, or twist it like this to keep it in place. And this one's holding really, really well. I'm very impressed by this. It's not fighting me on staying together to go on the beads. I'm so glad you guys like it. Thank you so much, Lori and Stacy. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to come up with really pretty projects that people will enjoy making and wearing. Because when you're wearing a piece of jewelry that you made, you want to feel confident and pretty while you're wearing it. And you want it to kind of match your outfit. But these colors, I think, would look fantastic with anything during the summer especially. Okay, I want to make sure that's not too long. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit longer than this one, but they're pretty close, so it's okay. And this strand is done. And just a few more of this one, we're done. Now, if you find that you're almost done with your bracelet and you don't need this much cording on the end, you can trim it as you're going, so it's not in your way. But I've had bracelets, oh my gosh, where I've been in the middle of a project and I ran out of cording and I had to cut every single bead off, cut everything off and start all over again. And that was not fun, because it takes a lot of time to make these. Sometimes I've made bracelets where I was knotting. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Wanda. Where I did really tiny beads going across, and it took hours, and I had to start all over again because I was barely short the cording. So now I just think a good rule of thumb is have more and then just deal with it than not having enough and having to start all over again. Oh, thanks, Lori. I really appreciate that. You're so nice. Thank you. I really appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Okay, so I think I'm almost done with this one. And sometimes, too, the cording wants to go over your bead. I just pull it back over, bring it down, and there we go, and pull that knot. Okay, so I'm just going to measure again. Nope, I can put one more. So as you're doing this, there's just there's a periodic pausing and measuring to make sure you have enough beads, that your beads line up, that you don't have one strand that's super longer than the other one, that your knots are tight as you're going, and that they'll all lay. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this like this. I'm going to put this. I'm weird about red and green right by each other. I feel like it reminds me of Christmas. Okay, there we go. That is that. Okay, so you have your bracelet. The actual beaded portion itself is about 4 inches long. So if you're doing a 7-inch bracelet, you want to do about 4 inches of beadwork, and then the clasp is about 2.5 inches. Okay, so when I'm done, I bring all 3 strands together and I want to tie them. Depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I tie them in a knot together, but for this one, I think I'm just going to go around the jump ring. I like to bring them together and tie one knot because then they stay in a cluster like this, but I think I'm going to do it this way. And I'm also going to cut off some of this extra cording I don't need. All right, so you're going to bring all 3 strands. Absolutely, Wanda, absolutely. If you don't ever like anything, you can cut it and make something else with it, or start all over again, or combine them with different beads. So I have all 3 strands together, and you want to have these right next to each other in a grouping when you're tying the end, because sometimes this happens. Whoops, and you've tied your knot. So now you have to untie your knot and try to get them back together again. And sometimes that's hard. Brazilian cord and a multi-strand. Sometimes they like to slip and get away. And you just want to make sure they're all in the same group like this, which is sometimes why I do one knot and then I tie them to a jump ring. So for this one, I'm going this way. I have an overhand knot, and I'm just going to gently pull the strands all together at the same time and form a knot. So we have them all knotted together. However, this will come loose. And I'm sorry you've had a headache, Robin. I hope you feel better soon. I'm glad that you're here. I've had a migraine for the last few days for the first time in my life and just started feeling better. So this knot, it will come loose. So they're all together and they're all together in the right spot. And this is fantastic. But if I pull on this, this is going to come loose at some point and then stay in its place. So when I have them all together and I have them knotted around here, what I do, this is just what I do, is I take the cord and flip it around like this and bring them together around the jump ring, and I tie them in a knot like this. And I do it on the other side of the jump ring to help hold everything in place. Again, I'm not sure if this is a professional technique, but it works for me. It's just what I do. That way my knot doesn't come loose. I don't like to put glue on waxed cording. So if you do this, and then I go back around the other side, it holds everything in place and the knots do not come off. And then you don't have to glue it. Here we go. And it's like more of a stable knot, I guess. But it's worked for me. I've done this for years and it holds everything in place. That's all I care about. So I do on this side. So I do on each side of the jump ring and then just pull it tight. And then when you feel like your knot is secure, like I double check it by pulling on everything, because if it's going to come loose, I want to do that before I cut anything, because once you cut it, you're stuck. The other thing you can do, if you wanted to, is just take the cording and do a little knot up against the larger knot you just did to kind of hold it in place too. That way it doesn't come unfrayed at all. And before I cut, there's one more thing I should go over. So you want to leave these long if you want to add beads. So that is your preference. So down here, I'm not going to add anything and I'm done. So I'm just going to trim these guys. So this part is done. This part, so you can add dangle beads to your jump ring. You can leave the jump ring plain and you can add smaller beads to this. You can add, so like I have the red beads left over. You can add more red beads up along here and just do like a strand and knot at the end. I do that on a lot of my bracelets. I'll add like smaller beads here and then just do one knot. So it's kind of like a tail. The other thing I had for you to use was these red check glass beads in a sunflower shape because they kind of match the ceramic beads. So I thought if you wanted to, you could have it come off the jump ring as a charm. You could also tie it here as a charm. It just depends on what your preference is. So you could add them here on the cording or cut the cording off and have it as a charm with a ball head pin. So you have a couple different options. I think it's fun sometimes to bead this and have like a long tail. It's definitely a bohemian look. And then you have your clasp here and they kind of trail off. So it just depends on what you want to do. For today, I was going to add these as charms and trim this off and use the ball head pins instead. If you don't want to wire wrap, you can also just take the cording through the glass flower like so and tie a knot and have that be your charm. So there are a couple different options using the beads. You can add the green ones, you can add the white ones, and you could just have each bead from the bracelet hanging off as a charm. There's lots of different options that you can use to finish off the bracelet with extra decorations. And I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do because I was like, all of those are really good ideas. You could have one bead of each to match this bracelet. But I love these orange flowers. I really wanted to incorporate them somehow. And now I'm really stumped because I'm not sure what I want to do. This is the fun part about working with cording is there's so many different options that you can do. You can change your mind halfway through and change it back and then finish it a completely different way. If you're using cording, I feel like it would make it more flexible on the wrist than to use a wire wrapping. I don't know. I kind of like it like that, honestly. Just doing it with the flower. What are your guys' opinion? They should be on the shopping list. If I left them off, I apologize, but they are available in the store. They are kind of like a translucent orange bellflower with, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate it. They have like a little glint of gold in there too. You probably can't see it on camera very well, but they're really pretty. And again, if you have some left over, you could turn these into earrings, add a bead cap. You can mix and match. Here's a pair of earrings, for example. You could mix the leftover beads together and poof, there's a pair of earrings. So you could easily make a pair of earrings and a necklace pendant. Oh, you do? Okay, that's good to know. You could take these and like stack them together and make a necklace pendant if you wanted to make a necklace to match the bracelet or just a pair of earrings. You know, here's a pair of earrings. I think that would be cute. The green could be a stem to the red flower. That's actually a really cute idea. I might do that later. So I feel like there's so many different combinations that you could do with this. And the leftover beads that come with the strands, you could turn them into a pair of earrings and a necklace. See, for all the beads you could get today, you could have a 3-piece set of jewelry. I think that's a cool idea. And then you would even have some extra left over and you could probably even do 2 bracelets out of this. So like this was one strand of the green. If you space them out, look at all I have left over. You could easily do another bracelet with these or a pair of earrings or a necklace. So you could get multiple projects out of these. And I think I'm just going to tie them off like so. Actually, I don't want that. Yeah, I want the green on there. Okay, so I'm going to do a green, a cream, and I think I'm going to do the red flower. And it's not too much, so it's just going to be like a little bunch at the end so it doesn't dangle on your wrist too much. And then when you're done, you just cut off your excess cording. I'm going to add the flower. If I can get it on. Yeah, I love these red flower beads. They're so much fun. I have not tried it though with this cording, so I'm not sure if it's going to cooperate. If it doesn't work with the cording, you'll want to add it with wire. Oh, no, there we go. It just takes a minute. There we go. Yay, we did it. Woohoo. And that looks kind of like a little garden cluster at the end, like a little batch of flowers. There we go. All right, and the next step, I'm going to add our clasp on there. And I love these clasps. Okay, so I used the bronze one on my last live. They have this beautiful floral detail and they're super sturdy clasps. Like these are really nice. They're thick. They don't, I mean, these are beautiful clasps. I love them. I was using a bronze one for a couple different bracelets. These are seriously my favorite toggle clasps. I love them. They are fantastic. Since I kind of have my jump ring buried in here, I'm going to add another jump ring to get my toggle clasp on there and close it. And I'm using a 6mm jump ring. in addition to the large one where everything's kind of tied off, and adding my bar. And you want to make sure when you do this, you have enough space to get your toggle bar through like so. You might have to add another jump ring if you need additional room to kind of go around the beads. And sometimes people have this bead cluster on this end so it doesn't interfere with your toggle clasp. So if you choose not to add the cluster on one end, you can put it over on this end with your spare thread that I had before I trimmed it. So you can pick which end you want your beads to be on your clasp. And so I have these little guys on there in the clasp. And again, so here we go. It's a fun project. Again, you have this beautiful Gollum ceramic bead, the bird nest. And oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Diane. Yeah, definitely. I've had to add 2 jump rings before to make enough room to go on there. And I just think it's such a fun project. So you have the red, the yellow, the green, the cream. And the other thing you could do too is if you had a silver bird charm, I thought about this after I ordered everything and I don't have any bird charms on me, is like just getting a bird charm and adding it to the jump ring. So you have like a bird charm tying in with the nest bead. I thought that would be a fun idea. But here's the finished project. Here, I'm going to hold up to the camera because I can't zoom. And there you go. And it's really lightweight too, if anyone's worried about weight. It's super comfortable, just kind of goes on like this. And it's lightweight and it's easy to put on. So this is a 7-inch bracelet. And again, you might have to maneuver around the length that you need as you're working on it. You might have to add a little bit more beads or a jump ring if you need it a little bit longer as you're working on it. And yeah, I think it's so fun. There you go. And it's a nice little garden floral bracelet. So I love it. It has like your little bird idea, bird theme, floral theme, and the flower ties in with the clasp and everything. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, if it moves around on your wrist, you have a different focal point. So if it spins around, you can see this part or you can see this part. You could wear this on the top if you wanted to. And even if this was on the top, it's decorative as a toggle clasp with the flowers. And it's super easy to put on too. You just do that, boom, flip your thing around, get everything lined up, and then your bracelet's on and you're ready to rock and roll for the day. And it's so fun and colorful and vibrant. I love it. Yay. All right, well, I'm going to bring my camera up and I'm going to hope it doesn't go slow-mo. Crossing my fingers.